Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. What do we got today, Rick?
We got our Week 8 starts and sits.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Hey, you got it, Rick. You didn't call it Week 7 this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to blame you on that, though, because, on the notes here, it said before.
You should just know off the top of your head that is exactly what the week is. I mean, we've only been talking about it for, 3 episodes now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not on me. I mean, lazy notes preparation, definitely on me.
It is crazy, though, that we're in Week 8. Like, it's halfway through the season.
Yeah, halfway through the fantasy season. That means in like roughly, 8 weeks, you're in. Somebody's going to be in some fantasy championships. I hope to God I'm one of those teams. I'm looking good in 3 leagues. One of those
teams is not in the home league.
So I have 7 leagues. One of them I'm just the listener league. I apologize for my complete. Well, it's not my fault. It really isn't my fault. Half my team got injured. It's still a good team on paper, but none of them are playing. And then in another league, I think I'm like 2. I should be 0-7.
You were trying to tank.
I was trying to tank, but I somehow went 3-4. The dynasty league I'm rebuilding, so accidentally went 3-4, and I have Zeke, so that doesn't even make any sense how I'm still winning games.
You should trade him at the deadline.
That actually, no one has 2 first-round picks besides you.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
I know. I mean, you could. That would work for you.
It wouldn't be bad, but I mean, we'll talk.
You got Clyde, Taylor.
It'd be beast.
I
just want young players though.
Anyway, welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. We've got some stuff to get into this episode. We're going to talk about Week 8 starts and sits before your Thursday night matchup. And then tomorrow we're going to jump into a little bit of a midseason review with some injury news. So we'll do that in the next episode. But before we jump into our starts and sits, check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps, on Twitter @TheFantasyChampions. On Insta. Did I say Twitter twice?
I don't know.
Twitter @TheFFChamps, Instagram @TheFantasyChampions, Facebook @Facebook.com/TheFantasyChampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends, with the biggest one, number 1 on the list, ranked number 1 in all of fantasy football. Subscribe. If you are watching on YouTube, once again, subscribe. 1,000 subs, Rick loses his hair at the Super Bowl. I think we could just keep adding stuff to this list.
What, like if we get this amount of subs, we'll do this type of thing?
Yeah, no, we keep adding things to it. Like at first it was just shaving your head, and now it's shaving your head live during the Super Bowl.
And then next it's at the Super Bowl live, and you're in a full clown outfit, shaving my head. We're not going to do that. Yeah. Just ideas, though.
Yes. Hey, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below any starter set questions you have for the week. So let's jump right in. Who's our quarterback start of the week, Rick?
We have Teddy Bridgewater against the Atlanta Falcons. We talked about him a little bit on our waiver wire show, and how he's been pretty good this year against good matchups, honestly. I think last time he played the Falcons, he had like 21 fantasy points. So pretty solid. And against the Atlanta Falcons this week, who their defense has just been not good all year, he's going to be a pretty safe bet. And with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel, he has some good weapons around him. And really, just against Chicago, he played poorly. And let me see, he had another game where he played poorly as well. But for the most part, he's been pretty consistent this year and very solid on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because when you look at the numbers when he was starting for the Saints, there was like maybe 1, possibly 2 games that he showed that he could actually be really good. fantasy football wise, but then just breaking down the numbers, he didn't seem like he doesn't really rush. Last year, he didn't really rush a lot, and he wasn't really a prolific passer. So, it was hard for me to like kind of, it was almost like a poor man's version of Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo is already just a streaming option. So it was Bridgewater's not going to be that good, but he's had some really like decent games so far this year. He's playing Atlanta. Obviously, we talked about the last couple of weeks, how poorly Atlanta does against the pass. 28 fantasy points per game now through 7 weeks of the season. So Bridgewater, definitely a really good start this week if you need one. And just to go over some of the numbers he had so far this year, if I could pull that up really quickly.
I just pulled it up. He had 20. Well, this is our home league, so the touchdown.
Yeah, that's why I switched to leagues. I'm probably in the 6-point touchdown league. Just to screw everything up.
He had 19 against the Raiders opening day, which is good.
Yep.
Against Tampa, he had 10 points, which that was one of his bad games this year. And his other bad game against Chicago, he had 11 points. So those 2 weeks were very bad, but against very good defenses in Tampa Bay and against the Chicago Bears. But against against poor defenses, or at least defenses that aren't like top 5, top 10 in the league, he's done good. Against Arizona, he had 27 points. Last time he played Atlanta, he had 20.8 points, so almost 21 points. Against New Orleans this past week, he had 19. He had 14 against the Chargers, so that one wasn't that great either. But he's mostly been against teams with, not great defenses, the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Saints, the Falcons. He's done pretty good. And against the Falcons this week, I would expect that trend to continue.
Yeah, definitely. I think he played Atlanta week 5 and had 20. So
yes, yeah.
Bridgewater definitely, and he's probably on a team. Not on a team in your league, I should say. I'm trying to see.
Wow. He's like on a team.
I just saw that he was on my team in a league, and I'm like, when did I pick him up?
That's why you froze for a second.
Yeah, it messed me up. Yeah, so I can't see the. There it is. The roster percentage is 95% right now. So actually, a lot of teams in fantasy football have him at least rostered. So if you do have him, I would start him against Atlanta unless you have somebody ridiculous at quarterback. My rankings probably came out today, so if you want to check that out, you can. At the sit position, I would say, and I always do this every time with Drew Brees, I get burned, but Drew Brees sit against Chicago. Chicago has been very, very good against quarterbacks so far this year, giving up only 13 fantasy points per game. Drew Brees hasn't necessarily been the best fantasy quarterback this year. He's had some good games and he's had some bad games. But he's starting to, most of his season has not been great. He's had 3 20-plus point games and 3 games where he hasn't been great and then a bye week. So
he's been fine, but he just hasn't been as good as some people hoped.
Yeah, definitely. So I think against Chicago, it's a clear picture. Like, I still think he's going to get over 13 fantasy points. Like, I don't think they're going to hold him to under that. But I think it's safer to sit Drew Brees this week and go with somebody else if you rely on Drew Brees. So that's what I would do for your week 8 matchup.
Yeah, it's partly been because he doesn't have Michael Thomas this year, which has not helped. And I believe Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders might be out this week against Chicago.
Why is Thomas out
which
again?
will really hurt Drew Brees. It's just a really tough situation for him. Yeah. I think he'll still be decent because he's Drew Brees, but I think it might be similar to like week 2 against Vegas where he had 312 yards passing and a touchdown and interception for 15 fantasy points.
Right.
So, I mean, I think this screams like a 15-point week for Drew Brees.
At the running back position, shifting topics, we have an interesting one. This is going to sound to a lot of people who are like, I don't know about that one. I don't know about doing that, but it's hashtag revenge game. And it's time for Levion Bell to show the Jets what they lost. I would start Levion Bell this week, and it kind of hurts a little bit. I put it on here expecting Rick to be like, no, you stupid. Why would you think that? But then he agreed, and I was like, wow, okay, let's do it. So Levion Bell, obviously, he played for the New York Jets about, 3 weeks ago, and And then they cut him, and he had some disagreements with the Jets. The Jets weren't playing him, and he ended up signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. This past week, he had 6 carries for 39 yards. Did you know his first carry as a Kansas City Chief went for like 15 yards, 16 yards?
I think he had 2 carries for 16 yards in that game.
Yeah, so no, he had 6 carries for 39.
Right, but two of his carries went for 16 yards, is what I meant.
Oh, okay. All right. Got you. So he did look a lot more efficient with the Kansas City Chiefs, which is good. But I think this is a game where the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get Levion Bell heavily involved just because he's playing the Jets. This is going to be a game where you can take the big game against the Jets and sell it.
Yes.
So next week we'll probably put Levion Bell on our sell show, but I think they're going to play him a lot in this game. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity, and obviously we know the Jets are terrible rushing the football. And I would think that a guy who's been playing for the Jets and practicing with the Jets for the last year and a half would probably know a few things about how to beat the Jets running the football. Mm-hmm. So I think Clyde will start, but I think that Levion Bell will get a lot of opportunities. I think he'll get some scoring opportunities, a lot of rushing opportunities, a lot of pass catching opportunities. It's going to be a good game for Levion Bell. And we'll definitely have to see what happens with that. But I would start him this week. If you need a flex play or you have a bye week at running back, I would start him.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to look at last week and just be like, I don't want to go anywhere near Levion Bell starting him this week. But it is actually a very good start, especially if you need him. Don't be hesitant because of last week, because this week against the Jets, first of all, they're going to kill the Jets. There's no, I would bet like my life savings. I mean, I'm not actually going to, but I would bet my life savings.
We'll do it right now.
I had to.
I'll bet my life savings against your life savings.
Okay, fair enough. The Chiefs are going to win this week. The Chiefs are a much better team than the Jets.
Yeah.
It would be like one of the biggest upsets in my lifetime if the Jets won. That's how big of a gap there is between these two teams. The chances are the Chiefs are going to have a major lead in this game, and they're going to try and get Le'Veon Bell the football, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
And his revenge game, and try to give him as many touches and as many opportunities as he can to succeed against the team that cut him. There's people saying that they might drop some plays for him this week. I could be wrong, but I think Andy Reid mentioned something like that as well. So there's just there's a lot of things going for Bell for this week in particular.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was completely like he had a 33% snap percentage compared to Clyde's like 55% snap percentage. So it wasn't like he was like completely behind Clyde. So if they, have a similar usage rate, so like let's say Clyde gets 60% and Bell gets 40% of the snaps this week. If Bell gets 40% of the snaps against the Jets, I mean, he could easily go for like 14 points.
Yeah, yeah. I think he might even get more. The game script against who did they play last week?
Denver.
The game script against Denver just went very negatively towards passing the football.
They didn't have the ball a lot.
They didn't have the ball a lot in the game, and I think there wasn't a situation where they were like, "Oh my God, we're going to pass the football like a lot in this game." And this week it's going to be a different story. But I do think that Le'Veon Bell's a great start this week. Who's our set of the week at running back?
We have the LA Chargers running backs.
All of them.
Justin Kelly and Justin Kelly. Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly.
And Joshua Jackson.
Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly are both sit this week.
It would have been funny if you actually screwed that up multiple times.
Almost did. Denver has shut down opposing running backs this season. We talked about it. I think last week's show or the week before we had Damian Harris and the Patriots running backs as our sits of the week, and none of them did good except I think White had an okay week.
Yeah.
But even he was not that great. None of the running backs did good. It's going to be the same thing in this week. I don't know why it is. I think they have a pretty good linebacking core, solid front seven. But Denver does do very well against the run. So Chargers running backs who weren't great last week anyway. I think Justin Jackson came away in half PPR with 8 fantasy points, and Joshua Kelly had around 6 fantasy points in that range. Neither guy did that great last week. I don't think either guy is going to do great this week either. It's going to be kind of reliant on Justin Herbert's arm again this week. So I'm trying not to start either Chargers player.
What we've been noticing too with the Chargers backfield is that we don't really know on a week-to-week basis who's going to have the ball.
Right. Exactly.
Even during that game, I was bragging to Rick that Justin Jackson was the guy, and while I was bragging, Joshua Kelly was getting more work. So, but like when you're talking about a team that's probably going to split a lot of the work between those two guys, going up against a defense that's only given up 12.5 fantasy points to the running back position so far this year, I mean, that's not going to be a good outlook for you if you want to start one of those guys. So I would take both of those running backs and slide them onto your bench and not play either one of them this week, because you're just apt for failure if you do that. Let's move to the wide receiver position. You are having a tough time with this one, Ricardo. Travis Fulgham. I think I said that name right.
Yes.
You want to add the R, but the R is just not there. Travis Fulgham versus Dallas. Now, we know the Dallas Cowboys are just absolutely abysmal. 4th worst team in the NFL and when it comes to giving up fantasy points. And 30 points a game. And really at this point, who else is catching the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles besides Richard Rodgers, who's their 3rd string tight end? They did get Jalen Rigor. I said Rigor. Jalen Reagor back. But I don't know that he's going to be very, very involved, and I think they like to throw it to Fulgham. So, and I think Reagor might also take some pressure off Fulgham at this point. But he's had some really great weeks, and I think that they are going to get him heavily involved in the passing game. And if this 30 fantasy points a game to wide receiver situation holds up for Dallas, Fulgham, I would think he's going to have a really great week.
Yeah, I mean, I was only a little hesitant because I wasn't sure what the situation was looking like. Reagor was activated off IR, but there is a chance that he does not play this week anyway.
Okay.
It's 50-50 right now, I think, as of today.
I mean, it'd be a hell of a matchup to start against.
Yeah, I think he is going to play, but it's not like a guarantee. And even if he does, I don't think him alone will hurt Fulgham's value because he's getting double-digit targets last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So without Goddard, without I'm struggling right now. Without Zach Ertz, without Deshaun Jackson, and probably without Alshon Jeffrey too, I would expect Fulgham to still get a good amount of targets in that offense. And against a team like Dallas, who's struggled so badly on defense this year, I think he's a must start.
Yeah, agreed. Sit of the week at wide receiver is Devante Parker. I was actually talking to Rick earlier today about this and how much I hate Parker this year. Cheers.
Which is rude because I like Devante Parker.
Yeah, I think he's good, but I don't like Dolphins players. Still, even when they're good.
Even when they're good.
The Dolphins could be good with Tua Tagovailoa for the next 10 years, and I'd still be like, the Dolphins.
They're the next Chiefs, and you won't draft any of their players.
It's so true.
It's the Dolphins.
I still don't draft Chiefs players. Mecole Hardman was like the only Chief I drafted because the value that you have to invest in that entire offense is ridiculous.
And it's
I was
worth
going
it.
to draft Clyde, but I got robbed. But anyway, Parker is playing the Los Angeles Rams, who have been very, very good against the pass this year. They've only given up 16 fantasy points a game to the wide receiver position. And Parker is changing quarterbacks. You're going to a rookie quarterback. This is probably the worst time to switch your quarterback. Like, why don't you let Ryan Fitzmagic, let him absolutely implode against the Los Angeles Rams. Jalen Ramsey has been absolutely freaking insane this year. So I think that when you look at Devante Parker, he is not going to have a very good game this week. I think you're going to see the lower end of what he can do on a week-to-week basis this week, and you're going to get burned if you start him.
Yeah, I like Tua. I do a lot, so that's why I kind of like Parker, but this week, not really. I mean, it's his first game, as you said, rookie quarterback going up against the Rams. The Rams have been great against receivers all year. He's going to match up against Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey held, I think, Robinson last week to 8 points?
Yeah.
And it was only on 4 targets. And one of the catches was came late in the fourth quarter. So for the most part, I mean, he's done a great job all year holding off the team's top receiver. He's going to be matched up against Parker. It's just not, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
For Devante Parker. Just for this week, I wouldn't really try to start him at all.
Okay. Let's move to tight end. Austin Hooper or Harrison Bryant versus the Las Vegas Raiders. The big thing about Austin Hooper is that I'm not really sure what the heck's going on with him. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know what's going on. Let me read the report. He's unlikely to play Sunday. So my guess is you could go to Harrison Bryant. Now, Harrison Bryant last week, if you know, no one really knows who this guy is. I know who he is.
I know.
Because I scouted him thoroughly during the draft, and I love him.
Is that why he's on this list?
Oh, totally. No, but last week he had 5 catches, 5 targets, 4 catches, 56 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the game. 19 fantasy points. Now, do I think he's going to do that? No. But if he gets targeted with Odell out, if he gets targeted 5 to 6 times again and catches the same amount of passes, I think he does provide a decent floor tight end wise, especially if you're in the market for one this week. So I think he's a decent play against the Las Vegas Raiders. Purely because it's not really the Raiders give up a lot of fantasy points to tight ends because they don't. It's not like the greatest matchup in the world. It's just because I think they're middle of the pack. So, but anyway, I think that they're going to pass the ball more to the tight end position now that Odell is out, and it's going to be more spread around. And with Harrison Bryant being the guy at this point, who they've said is now the starter over David Njoku. I don't even know if Njoku's going to play this week, but Harrison Bryant.
Njoku should, yeah. He played last week.
Harrison Bryant is a good, I think, add and play this week. It's a risky one. It's definitely a risky one, but it's not a bad play for this week.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad either. With Odell out, there's going to be targets to go around in that offense, especially for the tight end position. And with Hooper out as well, I think Harrison Bryant could have a good week. I also think Njoku could have a good week, though. So you might have to just take a guess on which one. I know you're saying Bryant. I think Njoku could also have a good week.
They said he's the starter. I'll talk about that tomorrow in the news portion of the show.
Based on that report, I'd say go Harrison Bryant then. But it's not a bad matchup, and with the injuries that the Browns have, I think both guys could do good.
Okay. Tell us the final player to sit at tight end.
He's been doing decent, but Hayden Hearst this week against Carolina is our sit of the week. I don't know. Is it because Carolina has a bad matchup? You put him on this list. So
yeah. Carolina's a bad matchup.
So Carolina has it's just a bad matchup. They do well against tight ends. Also, with
I'm very tempted to put Hawk on this list. I was very tempted, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Carolina has given up, I think only like 5 fantasy points to the tight end position this year. Okay. So they've been pretty good against tight ends.
I think Hawk and Hayden Hearst are 2 sits of the week. Hawk is playing against the Colts, which have been fantastic on defense all year, including tight ends. But Hayden Hearst, same thing, I guess. With Carolina, they've been very good against tight ends. And with Russell Gage, I think he got injured in the game, and it opened up some targets, but he'll be back. Julio's there. Calvin Ridley's there. I'm not sure if this is the week that Hayden Hearst has another good week. He's kind of been up and down all year.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. There are your starts and sits for week 8.
You don't sound enthusiastic about it.
Hey, it is what it's got. Some risks on this list. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they pan out for next week. We still got an episode tomorrow, so be sure to check that out. You can also go to our website at thefantasychampions.com, get all our information there. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We'll talk to you tomorrow, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at TheFFChamps.